Okay, we're continuing with Holy Grail Wisdom quotes by me, P. Rogers, in alphabetical order. We'll do just one quote from John dos Passos, and then we're going to do Boris Pasternak. Boris Pasternak, let's just a quick quote from John dos Passos. Marxism has not only failed to promote human freedom, it has failed to produce food, okay? It's a joke, okay? It always amazes me how all these idiots could think there's any potential in Marxism. It takes away all incentive to produce anything. Again, the joke is it caused 70 years of bad weather in Russia because when they steal everything the farmer produces, the farmer doesn't want to work. It's obvious, okay? And then they just beat the crap out of everybody, so everything stinks. Look at Russia. It's a third world crap hole, okay? Where you have Christianity, the country's rich, okay? Where you have, Soviet Marxism, desperate poverty and brutality. It runs on atheism and hatred. Christianity runs on love and capitalism. It rewards you. By the way, capitalism was invented by the Catholic Church. If you read economics, you will find out that is true. Okay? Anyways, Boris Pasternak, he lived from 1890 to 1960. And the thing he's most famous for is he wrote the magnificent novel that became a great movie called Dr. Zhivago. And he won the Nobel Prize for Literature for Dr. Zhivago in 1958, which pissed off the Soviet Union, and he was forced to decline the prize. Okay, he was a real educated guy. He knew how to translate Shakespeare into Russian, okay? He'd also been educated in Germany. All right, so here's some quotes by Boris Pasternak. When a great moment knocks on the door of your life, it is often no louder than the beating of your heart, and it is very easy to miss it. The writer is the Faust of modern society, the only surviving individualist in a mass age. To his orthodox contemporaries, he seems a semi-madman. Yeah, there's truth in that. I could relate to that, People ask me, why would you, I can tell you, my doctor buddies, this is, some years ago, about 5 years ago, they're like, why are you writing this book? Are you going to make a lot of money from it? I go, no, I probably won't make any. And they go, is it going to help you get laid? I said, no, probably not. They go, well, then why are you doing it? I go, because what I have to say I think is important and it needs to be written down. I'm going to write it. Okay, but they couldn't relate. They're like, well, why the F would you do that? Okay, Boris Pasternak continues. To his orthodox contemporaries, he seems a semi-madman. Okay, only individuals seek the truth. Yeah, that's also the case. And Goethe had a quote like that. He says, it is the individual who does things and achieves things. The age always does the evil things, All right, Boris Pasternak. Art is unthinkable without risk and spiritual sacrifice. All great, genuine art resembles and continues the revelation of St. John. Yeah, anybody who does anything worth a crap in the Soviet Union, artistically, creatively, it's always a Christian. Alexander Solzhenitsyn wrote Gulag Archipelago and some other books, and Pasternak wrote Boris Zhivago. It's always Christianity that makes people do good things, Okay, Boris Pasternak continues. I am caught like a beast at bay. Somewhere are people, freedom, light, but all I hear is the baying of the pack. There is no way out for me. Even so, one step from my grave, I believe that cruelty, spite, the powers of darkness will in time be crushed by the spirit of light. So, you hope that's true. You hope the good guys win in the end, but there's no proof that they do. I mean, I'm sorry to say that. I don't want to be a downer, but let's be honest about what's happening. The left is winning, okay? Let's be honest. The Christians have been feminized, castrated with gender-affirming surgery, estrogen chemicals in their personal care products, in their food, in their water. They're fading out, okay? And there's an old saying by Orson Scott Card. He says, the mouse knows he's right, but the cat eats him anyways, What could be done to change that? I don't know, okay? Sort of like, what good is it to figure everything out if you can't achieve anything, But anyways, it is my fate in life to try to figure things out. Boris Pasternak. Politics does not appeal to me. I don't like people who don't care about the truth. Politicians don't care about truth. They care about power. The only thing they care about is power. And if you can't speak about power, then you're basically a joke to them. All right, Boris Pasternak continues. To conceal the failure of Soviet culture, the people had to be cured of the habit of thinking and judging for themselves, and forced to see what didn't exist, to assert the very opposite of what their eyes told them. Yeah, it's the same in the USA nowadays, too. You must conform to political correctness, or you get in trouble. Anybody who tells the truth, you get in trouble. Anybody who tries to do the right thing, you get in trouble. So you're rewarded for being a snake and you're punished for being good. That's the opposite of Christianity. Like I said, it's always going to be that way because Christianity runs on love, atheism runs on hatred. Okay. All right. One day, Larissa Fyodorovna went out and did not come back. She must have been arrested in the street at that time. She vanished without a trace and probably died somewhere, forgotten as a nameless number on a list that afterwards got mislaid in one of those innumerable mixed or women's concentration camps in the north. Great. That's a person's life. There it is in Soviet Union. Your life means nothing. In atheism, your life means nothing. You're just lower than a talking monkey, like Darwin, because atheism and Darwinism are the same thing. Okay. I don't know of a movement more self-centered and farther removed from the facts than Marxism. Everyone is worried about only proving themselves in practical manners. And as for the men in power, they are so anxious to establish the myth of their infallibility that they do their utmost to ignore the truth. Okay, and Boris Pasternak, he had translated books. He just made a quote. Translation is like copying a painting. Okay, Pasternak. They don't ask much of you. They only want you to hate the things you love and to love the things you despise. Yeah, you'll notice that with political correctness. You're forced to say things that are the opposite of the truth. Okay? That's why it's one of the things about it that's so evil. People should be allowed to tell the truth. Okay. The great majority of us are required to live a constant duplicity. My ex-wife grew up in communist-controlled Poland, and she said, in communism, all day long you are forced to lie. You have to lie all day long if you want to survive. Great. And I've spoken to other people that grew up in communist-controlled countries. That's what they say. All day long you have to lie, all day long. When you walk into the class in school, you have to salute a picture of Lenin. I've had other people who grew up in communist countries. They tell me, you're not allowed to be religious, you're not allowed to be Christian, you won't ever, you could be arrested, you can't be promoted, depending on what area you're in. It's all bad. Okay, so Boris Pasternak says, the great majority of us are required to live in a constant duplicity. Your health is bound to be affected by it. If day by day you have to say the opposite of what you feel, you have to grovel before what you dislike, and you have to pretend to rejoice at things that bring you nothing but misfortune. Our nervous system isn't just a fiction. It's part of our physical body, and our soul exists in space and inside us like teeth in our mouth, and it can't forever be violated with impunity. The main misfortune, the root of all evil to come, was a loss of confidence in the value of one's opinion. People imagined that it was now out of date to follow their own moral sense, that they must all sing in a chorus and live by other people's notions that were crammed down everybody's throat. There it is, the public school. Oh no, don't go by what you think. You must obey what the textbook says. The textbook's written by some jerk who's trying to, wash your brains, okay? To condition you to be a chump. Okay, Boris continues. I think that if the beast who sleeps in man could be held down by threats, any kind of threat, whether of jail or of retribution after death, then the highest emblem of humanity would be the lion tamer in the circus with his whip, not the prophet who sacrificed himself. But don't you see, this is just the point. What has for centuries raised man above the beast is not the whip, but an inward music, the irresistible power of unarmed truth, the powerful attraction of its example. It has always been assumed that the most important things in the Gospels are the ethical maxims and the Ten Commandments. But for me, the most important thing is that Christ speaks in parables taken from life, and that he explains the truth in terms of everyday reality. The idea that underlies this is that the communion between mortals is immortal, and that the whole of life is meaningful. Yeah, Christianity gives meaning to life. It says everyone is created in the image of God, therefore part divine. Okay, that's it for our quotes from Boris Pasternak, the great Russian writer. Hope you found that helpful.